indicators that we may use to assess a project, starting from the three curves defined earlier: the BCWS, budgeted cost of work scheduled, BCWP, budgeted cost of work performed, and the ACWP, the actual cost of work performed. Let's try now to put this basic principle of earned value management into two simple formulas. Let's go back to the first example of the previous lecture. ACWP equals 700, BCWS equals 500, and BCWP equals 200. We know that we are late and that we are over budget. The first thing we did in order to understand that we were over budget was making a comparison between the ACWP and the BCWP. So now we can identify two different performance indicators taking into account these numbers. The first one is called cost variance, and the formula is BCWP minus ACWP, which in this case equals minus 500. Indeed, the project will be efficient every single time cost variance is more than zero. The second performance indicator is a ratio called CPI, Cost Performance Index. In this case, the formula is going to be BCWP over ACWP, which equals in this case to 0.286. Indeed, I will be efficient every single time this indicator is greater than 1. So, what's the difference between the two indicators? The first one gives me a unit of measure, so it's telling me how much money I am saving or losing because of the efficiency or inefficiency. On the other side, the second indicator, CPI, is a ratio, so it's a percentage of my level of efficiency. We can follow the same approach considering time. So, to understand if you were ahead or behind the schedule, we made a comparison between BCWP and BCWS. So we can create two different indicators as well. The first is the schedule variance, which is calculated as BCWP minus BCWS. This means that I'm going to be ahead of schedule if schedule variance is higher than 0, while in our example it is minus 300. Therefore, we are late. As in the previous case, the second indicator is the ratio, the SPI, Schedule Performance Index, which is gonna be BCWP over BCWS. And in this case, we are ahead of time if the ratio is higher than 1. Also in this case, we are late, since it is 0.4. Dealing with time, it is slightly more complex. Indeed, we are assessing time in terms of money, which is definitely not usual. Therefore, we need to find a way to express the schedule variance in time, and we can create another indicator that is a schedule variance time-based, or SVT. So the idea is pretty simple. We can calculate it as an earned schedule minus time now. If time now is simply the moment in which we are right now, the earned schedule is not that easy to calculate. The earned schedule is the moment in time in which the BCWS equals the BCWP now. In other words, in our example, the earned schedule is the moment in which the BCWS was set to be 200, as it is the BCWP now. How can we find it? Normally, we just consider the point of the BCWP and we draw an horizontal line. Either to the left or to the right, we will meet the BCWS, and we call it earned schedule. In our example, we may have that the earned schedule equals 3, and with a time now of 5, we are late of 2 periods. Please consider that the example we've been through is extremely simple. To properly control the project, we would need to dig into those numbers, for example, calculating these indicators at the control account level, and therefore dig in the single activities to understand the drivers of the gaps in terms of time and cost, and therefore understand how to take them into consideration for the replanning of activities. One last comment. Please consider that the EVMS is often not applied to simple projects, or more generally, they are properly applied for relevant projects in organizations that are structured for project management. Indeed, the managerial maturity to use this method is not obvious. To use this method, you need the BCWS, which means having the proper capabilities to properly plan the entire project, making also a proper budget allocation and not a simple time schedule. The ACWP, which means having the ability to check the actual consumption of resources, using, for example, time reports to assess the actual time spent on activities, and then, obviously, a proper monitoring of actual cost. And finally, the BCWP, which to be calculated needs to the percentage of the work actually done. It is very easy in some cases, such as if you have to develop 4 sketches for a concept of a new product, and you've done 2. It is easy to say that you are 50% to go in your activity. If your activity is just to take the most complex activity to assess, to actually manage the project, you may know the hours you have at budget, the hours you've spent, but it is definitely not so easy to say that you are halfway because you've used half the hours you had. There are many ways to calculate the percentage of completion, such as the units complete or the level of efforts, but the usage of these techniques is pretty advanced and goes beyond the goals of this course. One final tip: these formulas are pretty easy, but it's easy as well to mess up with them. There is a very simple trick to remember them. Everything starts with the BCWP. We've got the absolute indicators that start with BCWP minus the curves that is actually considering the performance you're observing. So the ACWP for the cost variance and the BCWS for the schedule variance. Moving to the relative indicators, you've got exactly the same thing, having BCWP first with a divide instead of the minus. So ACWP for the cost, CPI, and BCWS for the time, SPI.